This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Let's go right into the news. All right, so we're talking about Diddy, day 4. Today they will be cross-examining or have been cross-examining Cassie. It started a little while ago. I had to let them get a little bit ahead because I don't want to be reading every line or every second. So the cross is today. Inner City Press is on the scene. He spoke a little bit before he went into court.
Cassie Ventura ended. There could have been cross-examination. It was only 4 o'clock, but they got into a big dispute about what the cross-examination can include. Can it include prior sexual acts? It involved Mr. Mark Agnifilo, lead counsel for Sean Combs, saying, if you were just going to say, are you effing somebody, that's not about an act. It's just a colloquial way that people say, are you cheating on me? And jealousy is a big part of the defense. The prosecutors and lawyers for the victims, including Douglas Wigdor, who was on the scene, said, no, you cannot ask about these prior acts. And there's a specific federal rule of evidence about it. So it's all very interesting. The problem with it is that they're saying it can only be resolved in the robing room out of the public view. So we're heading in to cover, I guess, from the outside but we will be definitely covering the cross-examination in some detail. There's a lot of...
Okay, so I like Inner City Press. He does a great job of being a press reporter. So let's get right into this. So it starts out, let's see, before the cross-examination, Ventura's lawyer, Wigdor, says, I have the right to be a part of the meet and confer about which evidence she could be questioned about. She is the only victim witness that has a standing Rule 412. I don't know what that is. The judge says we have to move forward. Okay, so yeah, we can't spend all day on like rules and regulations of a cross-examination. It was all good, when the government's, asking her questions. It should be the same. It has to be fair. They have to have the right to ask her about anything, because they have their job is to make Cassie look like a non-credible witness, right? To be fair, I mean, this is court, It's not what you feel, So anyways, the judge says, any other issues? And the government says, as we noted in our email to the court early this morning, and then it says, no judicial documents are not to be put in public docket. The judge says, we might get a sign from Estevao, who will cross Cassie, and it's not an issue. Then the government says, the defense last night dumped 400 exhibits on us. This cannot continue throughout the course of the trial. Judge says, Mr. Estevao, Combs' lawyer, Anna Estevao says, we have been working tirelessly in response to Miss Ventura's testimony. Of course, they need it. See, it's almost like they need a day, right? You're going right into cross-examination, right? So it's like there should be 24 hours in between if you're going to, okay, well, you guys brought this up. Now we need to introduce this to combat this. So they're talking about that. They bring the jury in. Combs' lawyer, Estevao, Miss Ventura. You love Miss... Oh, they get right into it. Okay. Miss Ventura, you loved Diddy, right? She says, I did. And then he says, this is all going to be Puffy's lawyers asking Cassie questions, just so you know. So we can cruise through this, and then they'll probably break. They're probably breaking around now. But anyways, so the judge... So then he says... how long did he date? Like for 11 years, you took care of him? She says, in some ways. He says, you called him larger than life. Cassie says, I did. Then he says, others called him Diddy or Puff Daddy. What did you call him? You called him Sean, right? She says, yes. Estevao, Diddy's lawyer, says, you knew a version of him the rest of the world didn't see, right? They say, objection, government. Overruled. She says, in ways. They say, you kept coming back to him for 11 years? She says, I wouldn't say coming back. He says, you believed he loved you too? She says, I did believe he loved me too. And then he says, so when he cheated on you, it hurt? She said, not every time. Then there's a bring up his defense exhibit. They say, objection, not in evidence. Judge says, this is true. This is not in evidence. Then Combs' lawyer says, Miss Ventura, read it yourself. Why did you send this message? Cassie says, to let him know I was going to dinner. Then the lawyer says, what was going on when these messages were sent? She says, I'm not sure. He says, what was going on in your relationship then? She says, it was early. We were loving. He says, I offer it. They say, objection. Being offered for the truth overruled. Okay, so Diddy's lawyer says, please read it. She says, I wrote, I love you, smiley face. I'll fly anywhere for you. I love you, Cassie. Then he says, this is a 2009 email. They object. Hearsay. Judge says, Miss Estevio, ask more questions. Estevio says, from BlackBerry, what is BG? Cassie says, baby girl. He says, what did you write? Oh, so they're only going to have girls cross-examine Cassie on Diddy's team, so it doesn't seem aggressive. Okay. She says, you hungry, Pop Pop? She called him Pop Pop. And then and Mr. Combs wrote you, we are so in love. Don't do anything else. How long had you been seeing each other? She says, like 2.5 years. Then she says, please read this, 1364. Cassie says, I haven't talked to you at all. You don't even try. You rush me off the phone. I'm really hurt. I don't need your money. I need some attention. Then the lawyer asks, you wanted your special time with Mr. Combs? She says, yes. Then they ask, you testified that you told him, I love you so much. I love you so much. You make me a better woman. Cassie says, I definitely wrote those messages. Then she says, you wrote, I can't wait until we have a baby of our own. You knew that he had 6 children at the time, right? Cassie says, yes. She says, so now these messages are about a freak off. When you say, you know, it doesn't matter to me, you mean weekend or weekday, either is fine? She says, yes, what it says. Then Mr. Combs says, maybe we can call Jules. You can do it. Yes. What is that? Then she has, this was an explicit message from you about the anticipated upcoming freak-off. Oh, okay. Objection. So Jules is so she was saying, like, we could, call the escort dude for the freak-off. The judge will take a recess. Okay, they're all back at 11 a.m. Judge, Mrs. Devio, you may proceed. Or it's like 10:48 a.m. Miss Ventura, this is from Mr. Combs too. You respond with an extremely explicit message, right? Yes. This is 2 days after planning the freak-off, right? She says yes. He said, I want to see, how did you reply? She wrote, I can't wait either. Then you wrote, I feel like I want to F. Right? She says, that's what it says. Mr. Combs says, Diddy says, I'm so horny I can't concentrate. What do you say? She said that I'll go to Dwayne Reed for candles and set up the room. Then Diddy's lawyer says, did you understand that he was going to take another video of you? Then the government says, objection, speculation. The judge says, Mr. Evie, tells Diddy the lawyer, come on, move on. Then Diddy's lawyer says, you ask any pills on you? Yes. What pills were you taking then? Cassie says, opioids. You deleted videos on your device, right? Cassie says, yes. What did you write? Cassie says, that I need to feel this is my husband, the only one who will see this side of me. They ask, were you afraid that Mr. Combs was only seeing you in sex this way? Cassie says, that was a concern. So Cassie was kind of like open to this. Let's be real. She was open to this freak life. man, her husband. To have to hear all this, and like, damn, who did I marry, right? I mean, I'm sure he knew some of this stuff, but I think this stuff is more explicit. You were not public in your relationship with him? Cassie says, correct. Were freak-offs important? Cassie says, integral to us. Then they say, what was your 21st birthday party in Las Vegas? Cassie says, Britney Spears, Dallas, Austin. Then they ask, how did you get there? She says, they came for Sean. You were very beautiful and charming? Cassie says, thank you. It's true. Then Diddy's lawyer says, who is Tommy Mottola? Cassie says, he's a well-known producer. You were an up-and-coming star? Cassie says, I guess you could say that. Then he says, after you signed a Bad Boy, things were still platonic? Cassie says, yes. Yeah, right. Don't forget, she left Ryan Leslie to be with Diddy. Don't ever forget that. She was trading up in her mind. Diddy says, you had a rough performance. Cassie says, 106 in Park did not go well for me. How did he help you after that? Cassie says, we did a YouTube video. He said, everybody makes mistakes. They ask, what was wrong? Cassie says, I couldn't hear myself. Then they says, you were still dating Mr. Leslie. Here we have Ryan Leslie is being introduced. How much older than you was he? She said, 10 years. They asked, then you traveled to Miami with Mr. Combs. The flyer of the event was just a cover to spend time with Mr. Combs, right? Cassie says, that's true. Then they ask, you had a tattoo of Mr. Leslie initials on your body, right? She says, yes. How many tattoos did you have then? Objection, relevance, overruled, blah, 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 blah. She said, no regrets. Cassie said no regrets. So then Diddy's lawyer says, did he taught you how to do oral sex? She says, yes, he did. So Ryan Leslie, what? Were you guys even having sex? And then he said, look at this. Tell me when you're ready. Can you read it? Cassie says, you can read it. It's making me laugh. It's from 2007. You wrote, I feel protected. You were sweet. Combs' lawyer says, you wrote, I see that Carrie is better fitting for you. I'm hurt that you think I'm malicious. You're very important to me. Cass. Cassie laughs. What were you trying to convey? It's like a journal entry, Cassie says. You discussed Carrie Morgan. Did you think Mr. Combs was attracted to her? Cassie says, there was a point in the very beginning. And they said, did that complication carry on your relationship? Cassie says, not really. Carrie was just always with us. Then Diddy's lawyer says, I'd like to start asking about freak-offs. Sometimes you wore a wig and a mask. Cassie says, yes. The general public did not know? And then they object, rephrase, and there's just, no one knew this till November 2023 in the public. Cassie says, yes. Diddy's lawyer says, fair to say his career was ruined after your case against him, right? Cassie says, I could understand that. And he says, let's read these messages. Mr. Combs wrote, when are you on your period? Oh, Cassie says, no, now. Let's read this. Mr. Combs wrote, when are you on your period? Cassie says, no, now. Not now. That's what it meant. And then, what you be thinking about when you're horny? Diddy's lawyer says, what? Oh, okay. That's something Diddy wrote, right? And then, this is, if you don't want to read the answers, I can read them. And then Cassie says, thank you. Okay. The O has a lot of oohs after them, right? Cassie says, yes. After a freak-off, you made love with Mr. Combs? Cassie says, yes. Your period. Mr. Combs is asking when you're on it, right? Cassie says, yes. He's asking in context of when to meet up for sex. Cassie says, looks like it. Sometimes you watched him with a female? Cassie says 2 or 3 times. Did you talk to Mr. Combs about swingers lifestyle? Cassie says, no one talks about it. Really? So she's a freak. She's very versed on this. She says, hey, nobody talks about that in our swinger community. And then she said that they asked, did his assistants help him? And Cassie says, with everything. Would you remember if an assistant came in during one of your sessions with an escort? Cassie says, not necessarily. I was high. So you don't remember much. Cassie says, I had my privacy invaded a lot during that relationship. Okay, so hold on, I gotta refresh it. Total cost of legal. Jeez. Let me refresh this because this is all going on as this is from like 10 minutes ago. All right. Okay. Huh. They stopped right there for some reason. Combs, Estevio. This is from 2012. You say, Mr. Combs, I'm horny and bored. This was after a freak-off, right? Cassie says, there are a lot of texts here. Said to be 25 pages. Imagine this. You got to print off all these text messages. AOSA Johnson, I would ask that the witness be allowed to read the entire document. How many pages? They say 8 pages. We don't have a copy for the witness. We'll show it on the screen, but not in the public gallery. I'm going to be honest, man. From what it looks like, Cassie was kind of into this, but I don't think she was into being beat, you know. I know who would be. But she was kind of into the freakiness, you know. I think she was pushed far beyond her limits, though. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. They're back at it. It says Combs, Estevio, you said Mr. Combs often put you down, but he also sent you encouragement and called you a queen, right? Yes. Sidebar. What would trigger Mr. Combs' insistent calls to you? Anger, doubt of where I was. Okay, so they're just establishing like a foundation for everything right now this morning. We're going to have to get back into this like in an hour or two, like when they break again. It's kind of a light start. You know, they're trying to establish that she was kind of into it too, you know, and there was some jealousy on her side and that she used to watch him too. So I think they're trying to build up that she's kind of a freak too. Okay. It doesn't excuse I don't know how they're going to, you know, talk about him putting hands on her because that's crazy. But we'll get into that. Now, I'm reading something also. Diddy is paying like daily cost of his legal team, including lawyers, paralegals, assistants, experts, and jury consultants, is estimated to exceed $100,000 per day during the trial. Some of these guys charge $1,600 per hour, while other lawyers and paralegals cost $700 to $1,000 an hour. The total cost estimated that could spend $10 million or more on defense fees throughout the entire legal process. I think he's going to spend more than that. I think he's going to spend $30 million defending himself right now. He'll probably get like 5 to 10 years. That's what I would assume, but the trial's just begun, right? This is Jordan Tower with JT News. I will check in on this in about 2 hours, but in the meantime, we're going to do some new stories. So look out for that video dropping shortly.